everyone, welcome back. We've got a handful of Reddit stories to go through today. I'll read them, give you my take, and I'd love to hear yours in the comments too. Alright, let's start with the first one. This one's from r/AITA. ITA for telling my sister her wedding date is the same as my due date. Okay, so this has been building for months, and I need outside opinions because my whole family is against me right now. My sister, Jenna, has been engaged for over a year and set her wedding date for October 12th almost 8 months ago. At the time, I wasn't even pregnant yet, so nobody thought twice about it. Fast forward, I found out I'm pregnant in February, and when I did the math, my due date landed on October 9th, 3 days before her wedding. I told her immediately because I figured she'd want to know for planning purposes, maybe adjust seating or whatever. Instead, she got quiet on the phone, and then a week later called me asking if there was any way I could talk to my doctor about being induced a few days early so I wouldn't go into labor during the reception. I explained, as calmly as I could, that induction isn't something you schedule around a wedding, that babies come when they come, and that even if I begged my doctor, an elective induction that early isn't medically simple or guaranteed. She started crying and said I was choosing to ruin the one day she's dreamed about her whole life. My mom got involved and said, and I quote, "Can't you just try to hold off? For your sister?" As if I have a button I can press. Now my sister isn't speaking to me. My mom keeps sending passive-aggressive texts about family sacrifice. And I've been uninvited from the bridal shower because my sister says she can't look at me right now. I'm 8 months pregnant, stressed out of my mind, and being made to feel like a villain for something my body is doing completely on its own. AITA for not being able to control when I go into labor? Okay, you cannot hold off a due date. That's not a thing. That's not how any of this works. And I genuinely don't understand how a grown adult doesn't know that. The fact that her own mother is backing this up and using words like sacrifice for something that isn't even a choice is wild to me. Getting uninvited from your own bridal shower over biology is next level. This is such an easy one. Not the a-hole, obviously, not even close. That one was a slow burn, but this next one, this one escalates fast, and it involves something a lot of us have dealt with: office fridge crimes. AITA for eating the lunch my coworker left in the fridge for 3 weeks. I need to preface this by saying our office fridge is small, shared by about 20 people, and has a very clearly posted rule. Label your food, and anything unlabeled or left over a week gets tossed on Fridays during the clean out. This has been the system for 2 years. Everyone knows it, everyone follows it. About 3 weeks ago, a plastic container showed up on the bottom shelf. No name, no label, nothing. Every Friday during clean out, whoever's on fridge duty just moves stuff around, and somehow this container kept surviving because it got pushed to the back. By week 3, it was visibly moldy, and every time someone opened that fridge door, the whole break room smelled like a dumpster. People were complaining daily, so finally I took it upon myself, tossed it straight in the trash, and even wiped down the shelf. Not even 20 minutes later, my coworker Priya comes storming out asking where her container went. Turns out it was hers, and she'd apparently been saving it. For some reason she wouldn't fully explain. Something about wanting to bring it home for her dog before it went completely rotten. I told her it was unlabeled, moldy, and past the agreed-upon fridge policy by 2 weeks. She stormed off, and by the afternoon I got pulled into HR because she filed a complaint saying I threw away her personal property without permission. HR basically laughed it off once they saw the fridge policy is literally posted on the door. But Priya is still giving me the silent treatment and telling other coworkers I have no respect for people's belongings. AITA for cleaning out a fridge according to a policy that's existed for 2 years? 3 weeks in a shared fridge with a posted rule she agreed to like everyone else. I don't care what the specific reason was. That thing was basically a biohazard at that point, and you were doing everyone in that office a favor. HR involvement over a moldy, unlabeled Tupperware that violated the actual written policy is sending me, though, not the a-hole here at all, not even a little. Okay, from office drama to something a lot more personal. This next story got heated in the comments, and it's a real test of what loyalty actually means. AITA for telling my best friend her boyfriend flirted with me? My best friend Alina and I have been close since middle school, so almost 15 years now. She's been with her boyfriend Marcus for about 2 years. And honestly, I never had a problem with him. We'd hang out in group settings all the time, and it always felt normal. About a week ago, Marcus messaged me directly, which he's never done before. He started with small talk, then said he'd been feeling really unhappy in the relationship lately and wasn't sure Alina was the one anymore. I brushed it off as him venting, figured maybe he just needed someone to talk to since I'm close with both of them. But then he asked, and I'm quoting almost exactly, "If things ended with us, would you ever consider being with someone like me?" I shut that down immediately, told him that was completely inappropriate, and said I was telling Alina everything. He begged me not to, said he was just going through a phase and it would blow over. I told Alina that same night, screenshots and all. Here's where it gets insane. Alina didn't go off on Marcus. She went off on me. She said I must have been giving him some kind of signal for him to feel comfortable saying that, and that guys don't just say things like that out of nowhere. She hasn't spoken to Marcus about breaking up. As far as I know, they're still together, but she's barely spoken to me since, and a few of our mutual friends are saying I should have handled it more privately instead of immediately showing her everything. I'm sitting here wondering what I even did wrong. AITA for telling my best friend the truth about her boyfriend? This is the classic misdirected anger, and it drives me insane every single time I see it. She's mad at the messenger instead of the actual guy who crossed the line and disrespected their relationship, and the fact that she's still with him after this tells you everything about where her priorities are right now. Unfortunately, you did exactly what a real friend does. Not the a-hole, not even close. Speaking of relationships gone sideways, this next one involves a wedding, a white dress, and a family that decided to be furious after the fact. AITA for wearing white to my brother's wedding because his fiancé told me to? For context, my brother's fiancé Sam and I have always gotten along really well, probably better than most future in-laws do. A few weeks before the wedding, we were texting about outfits and I asked if there were any colors to avoid since I know some brides have strict rules. She specifically said, and I have the text saved, honestly, wear whatever you want. I don't care about all those traditions. Wear white if you want, LOL. I took that as a joke at first, but then she brought it up again in person and said she genuinely didn't care. She just wanted everyone comfortable and happy. So I ended up wearing a white dress I already owned, mostly because it was elegant and fit the venue's dress code, and because she'd basically given me the green light twice. At the wedding, I didn't think anything of it until the reception, when I noticed some of my brother's in-laws whispering and giving me looks. 2 days later, my aunt calls me completely furious, saying I deliberately tried to upstage the bride and that everyone at the wedding was talking about how disrespectful it was. When I explained that Sam herself told me it was fine twice in writing, my aunt said that doesn't matter because everyone knows you don't wear white to a wedding, no matter what the bride says. Sam hasn't said anything to me about it directly, and when I asked my brother, he just said he'd rather not get in the middle of it. Now half the family thinks I did this on purpose to steal attention, and I'm just sitting here confused because I have actual proof I asked first. If the bride herself told you it was fine twice in writing, I genuinely don't understand what everyone else's problem is here. This feels like people looking for a reason to be mad after the fact because gossip is more fun than facts, apparently. Even your own brother refusing to back you up with actual evidence in hand is disappointing. Not the a-hole, this one's on the family. Honestly, not you. All right, we're halfway through. But trust me, the drama is about to get even more petty with this next one, and it involves everyone's least favorite travel topic. Airplane seats. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my window seat on a 10-hour flight? I want to start by saying I booked this flight 5 months in advance, specifically chose and paid extra for a window seat because I get pretty severe motion sickness and having something fixed to look at outside genuinely helps me manage it, on doctor's advice actually. About an hour into a 10-hour international flight, a woman traveling with her son, who looked maybe 8 or 9, approached me and asked if I'd switch to the middle seat 2 rows back so she could sit next to him. I politely explained my situation, that I have motion sickness and picked this seat for that specific reason months ago, and offered to see if a flight attendant could help find another solution since normally airlines can shuffle a few people to reunite families. She got visibly annoyed and said, "It's just a window, you can look out any window," which isn't really how motion sickness works for me. It's specifically about controlling my own head movement near a fixed point, not just having a view. She refused to let a flight attendant help solve it and instead made a scene in the aisle, loudly telling nearby passengers I was being selfish about a kid needing his mom. Several passengers gave me dirty looks for the rest of the flight, and one guy even muttered something under his breath as he walked past to the bathroom later. I ended up feeling nauseous and anxious for basically the entire flight because of the stress of everyone staring at me, on top of my actual condition. I never even got a break from the judgmental looks until we landed. AITA for keeping the seat I paid for and planned around. This one always gets people fired up because everyone's got a strong opinion about flight seat etiquette, but you paid for that seat months in advance. You have a legitimate documented medical reason, and she didn't plan ahead for her own family. That's not your responsibility to fix by making yourself sick. The fact she refused help from the flight attendant tells you she wanted a specific seat, not just any solution. Not the a-hole, sorry, not sorry. All right, this next one's about revenge, privacy, and a friendship that might not survive it. AITA for telling my roommate I read her diary after she read my texts. My roommate Dana and I have lived together for almost 2 years, and up until recently, I genuinely trusted her completely. About a month ago, I started noticing she knew details about conversations I'd had with my partner that I never told her directly. Small things, like an inside joke or a plan we'd made that only existed in our texts. I got suspicious and set up my laptop one evening to basically bait her, left it unlocked with a fake conversation open, then watched through a crack in my door. Sure enough, she came into my room, opened my laptop, and started scrolling through my messages. I confronted her immediately, and she admitted she'd been doing it off and on for a few months. Because she was just curious about my relationship since hers had recently ended, I was furious, obviously, but instead of just yelling, I decided I wanted her to feel exactly what that violation felt like. A few days later, when she was out, I read a page of her diary, which she keeps in an unlocked drawer in our shared living room, not even her actual bedroom. I didn't take pictures or spread anything. I just told her afterward that I knew what page 47 said to prove I'd done it, and that it was payback for the text. Now she's telling our mutual friends I'm a psycho and a privacy invader, completely leaving out the part where she read my private messages for months first. Some of our friends are starting to side with her because a diary is more personal than text, and I'm just sitting here stunned because she started this whole thing. AITA for reading her diary after she read my texts for months? Two wrongs definitely don't make a right, and I get that everyone in the comments is torn on this one. She needed to know she got caught, that part I respect, but going for the diary specifically, especially framing it as intentional payback, is a step that probably didn't need to happen for you to prove your point. That said, leaving out the fact she read your messages for months first when telling your friends is pretty telling about her own accountability. This one's actually a soft everyone sucks here, but she absolutely started it. Okay, we're not done yet. This next one is about money, family, and a birthday gift that turned into a full-blown feud. AITA for telling my in-laws I won't be lending them money anymore. My husband and I have been financially stable for a few years now, and about 2 years ago, his parents hit a rough patch. His dad's business slowed down and they were struggling to cover a few bills. We stepped in and loaned them a decent amount. No interest, no real timeline, just help family out kind of thing. Since then, it's happened 4 more times, always framed as a loan, never actually paid back, and never really talked about again once the crisis passed. Last month, I found out through my husband's sister that his parents had gone on a fairly expensive vacation, paid for partly with a tax refund they told us they desperately needed for bills just 2 months earlier when they asked us for the 5th loan. I brought this up gently with my husband, and he agreed it felt off. So together we decided the next time they asked, we'd say no, or at least set actual boundaries and a real repayment plan going forward. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, his mom calls asking for help with a car repair. My husband, to his credit, told her we needed to talk about repayment terms for the previous loans before considering another one. She got defensive, then called me directly, accusing me of turning her son against his own family and saying that real family doesn't put price tags on love. She then brought it up at a family dinner in front of everyone, framing us as cold and materialistic without mentioning the vacation at all. Now my husband is getting guilt-tripped by his sister too, saying we're being petty over a car repair when we've genuinely helped them multiple times already with no strings attached until now. I stood my ground and said we're happy to help family but not indefinitely, and not while being lied to about what the money is actually needed for. AITA for wanting boundaries after being financially strung along? The vacation detail right after claiming they desperately needed money for bills is the part that really gets me here. Helping family is one thing, but you two have been more than generous already. Multiple times, with zero repayment or even real gratitude, it sounds like. Asking for basic honesty and boundaries after that is more than reasonable. Not the a-hole, and honestly, good for you two for finally drawing a line. From money drama to something a little more chaotic. This next one involves a group chat, a surprise party, and one person who really shouldn't have opened their mouth. AITA for accidentally exposing my friend's surprise party by replying to the wrong text. So this genuinely was an accident, but the fallout has been way bigger than I expected. My friend group has been planning a surprise 30th birthday party for our friend Theo for about 2 months. There's a separate group chat just for planning, completely different from our regular group chat that Theo is also in. Last week, someone in the planning chat asked about venue details, and I typed out a whole message with the address, time, and a note about keeping it quiet from Theo. The problem is, both chats have almost identical names on my phone, one letter difference, and I was multitasking while cooking dinner. I sent the entire message, address, sneaky plans, all of it, directly into the regular group chat, the one Theo is actually in. I realized within about 10 seconds and tried to delete it, but Theo had already seen the notification preview on his lock screen, enough to know something was being planned, and roughly when. I immediately called him, apologized profusely, and asked him to please still act surprised for everyone else's sake since so many people had put in effort. He was actually really understanding about it and agreed to play along. The problem is, someone in the planning chat took a screenshot of my mistake before I could clarify what happened and shared it with a couple of people, not originally in on the surprise, turning it into this whole side drama about how I ruined the surprise and can't be trusted with anything sensitive. Meanwhile, Theo himself has said multiple times he doesn't blame me and thought it was actually kind of funny. AITA for a genuine autocorrect level mistake that Theo himself has forgiven. If the actual birthday guy involved has said he's not mad and is willing to play along, I really don't understand why anyone else in the group chat gets a vote on this. Genuine mix-ups happen, you caught it fast, you owned it immediately, and the person it affected most is fine with it. The screenshot and spread move from your friend is honestly way messier than your original mistake. Not the a-hole, this is a non-issue that got blown out of proportion. Alright, from group chat chaos to something with a lot more heart behind it. This next one is about a pet, a promise, and a decision that split an entire family down the middle. AITA for refusing to give my childhood dog to my brother after our parents passed. This one's heavy, so bear with me. Our mom passed away about 8 months ago, and our dad had already passed a few years before that. Our family dog, a 12-year-old golden retriever named Buster, had basically become our mom's whole world in her last few years, especially after Dad died. When she got sick, I moved back home for the final several months to help take care of both her and Buster, since I lived closest and had the most flexible job. After Mom passed, we were going through her things and figuring out logistics, and my brother, who lives 4 states away and visited maybe twice a year during Mom's illness, said he wanted to take Buster since he always loved that dog too. I told him honestly that Buster is old, has some mobility issues now, is used to a specific routine and specific person, me, taking care of him daily for the better part of a year, and that uprooting him to a completely new home and city at his age could be genuinely hard on him. My brother got upset, said I was being controlling, and that Buster was just as much his dog as mine growing up, which sure, we both grew up with him, but the day-to-day care for the last year has entirely been me. He brought it up at the small family gathering after the funeral, saying I was trying to keep the last piece of Mom for myself and cutting him out. Our aunt sided with him, saying siblings should share something so sentimental. I offered him video calls, visits whenever he's in town, even offered to send him some of Buster's things and photos, but he says that's not the same as actually having him. I feel awful about the tension, but I genuinely believe moving Buster at his age away from his routine and the person he's bonded to most right now isn't fair to the dog just to make a sentimental point. AITA for keeping Buster instead of splitting custody somehow with my brother. This one hits different because there's no real villain here. Just a really painful situation made worse by grief. But practically speaking, you're right. An elderly dog with mobility issues doesn't need a cross-country move and a brand new environment just to satisfy who gets the sentimental win. You did the actual caregiving for the last year of that dog's life, and that matters more than childhood memories when we're talking about what's genuinely best for Buster right now. Not the a-hole. I think grief is just making this messier than it needs to be for your brother. Alright, last story of the video, and this one's going to bring the energy back up. AITA for leaving my friends at the restaurant after they ordered way over our agreed budget. 6 of us planned a weekend trip and agreed beforehand. In writing in our group chat, on a strict per-person budget for meals since a couple of us, myself included, are on tighter finances than the rest of the group. Everyone agreed enthusiastically at the time, said it sounded totally fair and doable. On the first night, we go to a restaurant and I watch 3 people in the group order appetizers, multiple rounds of cocktails, and the most expensive entrees on the menu, easily 2 to 3 times over what we'd agreed on per person. When the check came, one of them casually suggested we just split it evenly 6 ways, instead of everyone paying for what they ordered. I said no, reminded everyone of the agreed budget, and said I'd only be paying for exactly what I ordered, which was well within our limit. This caused an immediate awkward standoff at the table, with 2 of the big spenders saying I was being cheap and ruining the vibe over a few extra drinks. I calmly paid for my meal, left cash on the table for my share, and told them I was heading back to the rental since I wasn't comfortable with the direction the night was going. They stayed and apparently ended up splitting it unevenly anyway after more arguing, but now I'm getting messages saying I abandoned the group and made the whole trip awkward by leaving early over money. I remind you, we agreed on this budget beforehand specifically so nobody would feel pressured or blindsided, and 3 people blew past it and then tried to make the rest of us cover the difference. AITA for sticking to the plan we all agreed to and leaving when things got tense. And that's 10 stories for today. Let me know in the comments which one had you the most annoyed, and if you want part 2 of this series, smash that like button and I'll bring more next week. See you in the next one.